Then Sheikh will demonstrate practically what to do with the body, inshallah. So that's the next bit. Okay, so when you're sure that someone's passed away, obviously this is in a scenario that you're at home. You need to inform your family doctor. You also need to inform your undertaker or funeral directors, and you need to make arrangements for the janazah prayer, so you need to inform the local imam. And obviously, for practical purposes, inform near relatives as well, inshallah. So there's different things to do. If someone's died at home, you involve your family doctor, like I said. And there's different scenarios according to whether the person was expected to die or if the person wasn't expected to die at that time. So the most straightforward scenario is if someone had a chronic illness, for example, if they had cancer or they had some other type of illness and it was expected that they were going to pass away, and the doctor had visited them or seen them in the last 14 days before they died, then it's very, very straightforward. Basically, you contact your family doctor. If it's a weekend and you know your relative's been very ill and that they may die, you have to speak to your family doctor before the weekend, and you have to make sure that they have informed the on-call service, which covers the out of hours, that this person may die, and that they may want a death certificate over the weekend. So they actually, especially for cancer patients, there's special forms that the GP can fill in and send across to the out of hours service, who cover the evenings and cover the weekends, and therefore that service know that your relative may die. That not only helps them to provide things like pain relief before they die, but also will get them informed that they might have to give a death certificate over the weekend. Of course, if something happens in the evening, it's probably reasonable to wait till the next morning, inshallah. When the family doctor's been contacted, they will give you a medical certificate where they will write the cause of death, and they will write there that they don't see any reason why any further examination is needed of the body. And that's really what you need. You need sort of permission to carry on and go ahead for the burial. This is totally free of charge. Once you've got that, you can tell your undertaker, I've got the medical certificate, we can now carry on and proceed as we planned, as we want to do. So after that, it's quite straightforward. So once you've got the medical certificate, you still need to register the death. It says in the Fi Sabilillah production it should be a son or a brother, but I don't really see why that needs to be the case, to go to the register office. So I guess anyone from the family can go to the register office. It should be the next of kin, but it doesn't have to be a son or a brother. So you go to the registry office and you need to take certain documents with you so you can verify who you are and who the deceased person was. This usually is in the town hall or the civic centre or something that is equivalent to that in your area. The registrar basically has to give you two documentation. One is a document which is a green certificate which authorises you for then to go for burial. The other certificate is for things like social security purposes. So it gives you two certificates, one for burial and one for other purposes. Now, we often, obviously, if we want to bury the body quickly, which obviously Sheikh will go into whether that's important, if you are on a public holiday or it's the weekend, you can actually contact the registrar over the weekend. And they put here only for emergency, but I guess for us that is the emergency, that we do want to bury our relative. The number can be obtained from the civic centre. I don't know if civic centres are open over the weekend, but I'm sure that mosques will have those kind of numbers available, because I'm sure this is a very regular occurrence. So if you don't know the number of the registrar, you can probably call your mosque and find out. Just some practical points, that burials usually don't happen after 3 or 4 o'clock in the evening. Now, a problem happens when this was a totally unexpected death. So if someone has died and this was not expected, they didn't have any kind of illness that which was thought that they were going to die from this illness, that there may be a slight problem. We put here that the doctor has to inform the police. The police doesn't always have to be informed. It's only when you feel that there is something suspicious about the death. If the person was fairly old, but you don't know the reason, you don't really have to tell the police. But in general, if there is anything suspicious or you're quite doubtful, you don't really have any idea, you may involve the police. And then in turn, you get the coroner involved. The doctor gets the coroner involved. Now, the reason you would involve the coroner is if nobody saw the person who died, no medical doctor had seen the person who died in the last 14 days that they were alive. Or if you don't know why the person has died, or if the death was very sudden, violent, or caused by an accident, or if this was an industrial disease. Now, for the top category, number 1, if this person had an illness like cancer, but actually it just so happens that no one actually saw them for the last 14 days, and that can happen. It can be that they've been ill for many, many, many months. Nothing's changed really in the last 2 weeks, and suddenly they die. Nothing suspicious. We all knew they had cancer. We all knew they were going to die, but no one's actually seen them. In that case, it doesn't have to be too complicated. The doctor just rings the coroner and has a friendly chat and say, well, no one saw them in 14 days, but I'm very, very sure that this person died because they had cancer. It's not a big problem, so it can be sorted out. The main issues are number 2, 3, and 4. When the death is totally uncertain, it's sudden, violent, or caused by an accident or industrial disease, then the coroner has to have an in-depth involvement. So the coroner, in general, are very, very sensible people. There's a coroner's office. They try and avoid doing as much as they can because they respect people's wishes of not having postmortems. But only when it's absolutely necessary. There's actually no clear cause of death. And often, if the person is fairly young as well, then they will actually be quite keen to do a postmortem examination. If the patient is fairly old, even if there's no real clear cause, they're in their 80s, 90s, in general, they will not do a postmortem. They'll try and advise the doctor to put something like old age, or this changes from time to time. What's the right thing to put? But it's actually quite a sensible system. It's not that they will do a postmortem on every single person. But as you can imagine, if someone's died and you don't know, it's actually quite important to find out why they've died, because it could be a suspicious cause, etc. So once the coroner has done the post-mortem and he's realised that this person died for a very clear medical cause that no one caused and it happened just by itself, they will then be happy that the body can be buried, and they will give you a pink certificate, and then you take that to the registrar's office and you get the other certificates as we discussed before. If, however, they find there is no medical cause and they're very uncertain why it happened, or there's a very suspicious or accidental cause, then they will call for an inquest. So an inquest is an inquiry into the circumstances surrounding someone's death, and there's some details here about whether you need to have a lawyer present or not. And you can read that, inshallah. Right, the other case is if someone's died in hospital. It's often very, very straightforward because obviously there's a doctor in the hospital all the time, 24 hours. If it's the weekend, there should be it won't be the regular doctor maybe of your relative, but there will be another doctor who should be able to supply a medical certificate. Of course, if they really didn't really know what was happening with your relative, even though they were in hospital, they didn't really find a cause for their illness, they may still suggest that it's a good idea to get a post-mortem. Now, this is a discussion between the family and the doctor who's talking to them, and if you put the case forward that we really not like a post-mortem, then they usually respect that. It's only if they have a very strong reason to have a post-mortem, then they will actually press on that. So you will have that discussion with the doctor on call. Right, so then the body is transferred to the hospital mortuary, and you can make arrangements to transfer that to the masjid's mortuary. It's just important to bear in mind that the death must be registered in the borough where the person died. Right. There's just a bit here about mortuaries. You can keep the body in the hospital mortuary, or the undertaker can move it to another mortuary. Some masjids have mortuaries. And like I said, if the death occurs in the hospital and the cause of death is unknown, the doctor may want to discuss that with the coroner and have a post-mortem like we discussed. That's it really. So it's actually not that complicated. If you don't know what to do, you speak to your GP or to the doctor around and they'll instruct you what to do. And in every hospital they have a patient liaison office where you can actually go and find out what the process is. So it's actually quite straightforward. Anyone got any questions? Yes.
If somebody dies during the night, before the GP, before the hospital,
yeah. Basically, usually your GP has a system of someone caring for their patients overnight. And usually what you have to do is you ring your GP and their answer machine should tell you what to do. So they'll say, in emergencies, please ring this number. You ring that number and you tell them my relative has passed away. Obviously, if it's 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, you could possibly wait and tell them 8 o'clock in the morning. You could phone your GP when they open at 8 o'clock. But if it's quite early in the night, then it'd be sensible to let someone know. So if you call the emergency doctor on call, the number you got from your GP answer phone, and they will actually come out and visit and certify that this person has died. They won't probably give you a medical certificate. They will actually just say, yes, this person died at this time, and they can record that.
What do you do with the person just leaving at home?
At that point, it depends on your undertaker. If the undertaker has got a 24-hour service and they can remove the body, that's fine. You can remove the body, that's fine. As long as a doctor has seen the body can then be removed from the home.
You can, after the doctor.
Yes, once the doctor has seen the body.
Give you any paperwork?
He doesn't have to give you any paperwork, no. He could just say, that's fine, you can contact your undertaker, and contact your GP in the morning to get a certificate, and then the process will go on from there. But you do have to get a doctor's permission to move the body from the house, yes.
How do you move the body, through a local ambulance or through the mosque?
It'd have to be through an undertaker, basically, yeah.
And they don't need any papers to move the body? Or will they insist on having some
That's an important question. I have often seen people who are already in the mortuary and they haven't got a death certificate, so I don't think they need anything. Because often we find people that have passed away, they're in the mortuary, and a doctor has to provide a medical certificate at that point. So this one, you don't need any paperwork. As long as you've got a doctor's permission to say that this person can now be moved, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah, sister at the back.
I had a question about cremation forms, because I'm a newly qualified doctor myself, and you need to, for non-Muslims, usually they get cremated because it's cheaper. I'm wondering if it's okay to keep the money, because you do get paid for it, for certifying that there's no pacemakers or any reason why this person shouldn't be cremated.
Okay, that's a fiqhy question, so we'll wait till Sheikh gets back, but that's a good question, yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay, I'll answer on Sheikh's behalf. Basically, it's a grey area, so whether you should keep the money or not, so therefore you can keep the money if you wish, but if you want to give away to charity, that's fine as well. Okay, but it's not black and white, there's a bit of a grey area. Okay. Right, sister.
You said that when the person dies, supposing the person is in the hospital and out of the bar where you are living, do you have to register death in that bar?
Yes, you have to register the death in the place the person died. Yeah. Sorry.
Can a widow go and register death, or is she in the time of something?
That's a very good question. I would imagine that she's in Idda and that she can't go. Yeah, she can't go. If she's got nobody in the world that can go, then she would have to go, because you can't bury the body without going. But I'm sure there'll be someone that can go.
And you know that children are coming late at night, and you want to bury the person, so what is the situation?
That's more of a burial question, so we'll come back to that later, because that's when the body actually starts to get buried, so we'll come back to that later. So, Aisha? Right, yeah, that's a good question actually. I think maybe if Sheikh can talk about that when he comes back, whether post-mortems are allowed or not allowed, and whether they affect the body. Yeah, so Sheikh just said if there's a genuine reason to do post-mortem, then obviously you have to allow them. And in fact, actually, when there is a genuine reason, you actually have no choice. You can't say no. Legally, if there's a genuine reason for a post-mortem, you have no consent. They will do the post-mortem. Sorry, say that again? No, definitely not recommended. No, definitely no. Yeah.
During post-mortem, do you have to care about whether or not they can remove organs? Can they remove organs without permission?
Sorry, say that again. The removal of the organs.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, this will depend on whether they carried a donor card or not. If they didn't carry a clear donor card, then they will seek the permission from the relatives. And the relatives obviously have to think about whether this person said anything to them in their lifetime or not, about whether they want to donate their organs or not. Whether it's allowed in Sharia, I think from what Sheikh says, it's beneficial to society, so therefore it's fine to donate organs. Yeah, inshallah. Yeah.
Can I just clarify, is there not a difference if the patient dies within 72 hours of an operation because to improve their situation, that it does go to PA, because that's an unexpected death?
Yeah, so again, obviously, because they have to clarify, the sister's just asking if someone dies within 3 days of having an operation, and they may well have had cancer and they had to have an operation to maybe relieve symptoms or something. If they die within 3 days, they may need a post-mortem. But obviously that is because they want to make sure that they didn't die because of the operation, and they actually did die because of what was going to kill them in the first place, because they have to see if there was any negligence in the operation itself. So that's an important thing. Thank you. I don't know that actually. That's a good question. I'll try and find out. But unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that question. No. Brother, back.
With regards to donor card, are you sure that if someone has a donor card, then their organs will be donated? But is there not anything reference to it that all the donation must be given to, or can be given to anyone?
I think there's no specification. I don't think you can have any control about who gets your organs. You can say whether that you want your organs donated or not, but you cannot control who gets your organs. It's not in your control at all. There's two different opinions. So one opinion will say that you're not allowed to give your organs to anybody else. But there is another opinion which Sheikh supports to say that you can give your organs to other people. Yeah. Brother Amjad?
When I obtain a medical certificate and I go to the registrar, on page 9 you set out the information that I need to
Yeah.
get to the registrar. Date and place of death and deceased last address
Yeah.
will probably be contained on the medical certificate.
Yeah.
What I'm more concerned about obviously is the question of how do you prove the deceased date of birth and date of birth of the widow.
You probably need an official document like a passport or a birth certificate.
Will a passport do as opposed to a birth certificate?
I would have to clarify that, but I imagine it should be fine, but I would have to clarify that.
Because of course you're going to have to establish that the person who has died is the same person who's on the medical certificate. And I would think that information has to be established documentarily.
It's actually not that complicated. Yeah, it's actually quite straightforward. I've never heard of anyone ever having any problems in registering the death. So if you go with your general, records that you have of that person, there's very, very few occasions where anyone says, I had problem registering the death. It's usually done on the same day. No problems usually. Yes, sister. Yeah. So they're quite cooperative, yeah. Thank you, sister, that's really useful. The sister's just saying that she's unfortunately just been involved in a deceased, someone in her family just passed away, and she couldn't prove the date of birth of the person because they weren't born in this country. But she said they were very cooperative, and actually when she just said that this is their date of birth, they believed her. There wasn't any many questions asked, so it was quite straightforward. So, yeah. Yes.
Regarding the person that asked the question, if she dies or what happened,
Yeah.
the thing is you've actually got to go to British Embassy. And they have a section there that they recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So you're writing a letter to say you're the next of kin or you're a relative. Then then they will help you to go through the procedure.
Did everyone hear that? No. The sister's just clarifying. The brother asked what to do when someone passes away abroad. So she's just saying that you actually have to go to the British Embassy and declare that this person has passed away and write a letter to say you're the next of kin, and that's how you inform them. Yeah.
Passport details, where they are, and it can even be done by fax, just faxing the details. Then they will send a release. That release can then be taken to the contact, where it is.
Yeah. So the sister's saying that you need to know, tell them that you're the next of kin, the passport details of the person who's passed away, and then they will release, give a release for the body, and then hopefully you can take it back to the UK, I imagine, from then.
You can actually arrange through the embassy to arrange, but then you've got to ensure that you've got insurances and lots of other things.
Probably sounds quite complicated, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So, any other questions? Yes, sister.
Isn't it that even if wherever you die, that's where you get buried, and this whole thing of flying people?
Yeah, that's a good question actually. So when we come to burial, if we remember, if Sheikh hasn't mentioned it, to ask him at that point. Yeah, Sana.
Just a quick question. A friend of mine's father passed away and he kept the body on for 16 days. I'm not sure what the reason was, but I remember receiving a lot of text messages saying, request for blood before he gets released early. I presume it was the reason why he was to be buried as soon as possible. So what would you do in this instance? Do you allow the hospital to take out the procedures, or can you request them to release them ASAP?
Well, like I said, actually, when there are medical reasons for post-mortems or any other further examination, you don't actually have a choice. You can tell them that speed is of the essence. You can sort of remind them, and they're aware that Jews and Muslims want the body to be buried quickly. So they are conscious of that fact, and you can remind them that this is really important to us, and we want the body. But you can't force them, and they will actually have to take the time that they need to take. But it's nice to remind them gently, because obviously they've got lots of things going on. So just to remind them that this is important to us, but you can't actually force them to take to release the body until they're ready. Yeah. Yes, Faiza. I mean, generally, you will need a medical certificate at one point, right? Faiza's asking if someone's died at home in the night, you've got a doctor on call out to say, yes, the person's dead, you can remove the body, but you haven't got a medical certificate, and then do you have to make sure that body goes somewhere in the borough? In general, your GP will live where you live. And in general, your undertaker should be where you live as well, and that would be the advisable thing, because I don't think the GP would be very happy if they had to, get involved with the undertakers and stuff, and if they had to see the body themselves, etc. They wouldn't be very happy if they had to travel far. So it wouldn't be very sensible to have an undertaker that's outside of the borough. It'd probably be sensible to have it near where you live and near where your GP lives. Yeah. If you want to send the body abroad, I don't actually know, yeah. But obviously we can ask Sheikh whether that's a good idea to do or not. But I don't actually know how you get the clearance to send a body abroad. I'm sure you'd probably have to have a very uncomplicated case, or you'd have to have all the clearances first from the various coroners and the different certificates first, but then how to get permission to get it abroad, I'm not sure actually. Yeah, I'm sure, yeah. I mean, contact the embassy where you're going. The opposite way. So Sheikh's saying that you actually contact the embassy of where you're going to find out if that's going to be possible, and that's the first place to start. Inshallah.
You were just mentioning about out of borough. Most of the undertakers are all out of borough.
You mean Muslim undertakers?
Yeah. So I live in West Kent, and we're actually preparing for my mother. Not finding an undertaker.
Subhanallah. That's really difficult, yeah.
So they are all out, and then the mosques where they have no choice, or the refusals to keep the body, are totally overwhelming.
I think this is just an issue of if your GP hasn't seen the body, they will need to see the body at some point. They they will just have to go. I mean, I think there's nothing you can do. It's inconvenience the GP a bit, but you can just apologise and say this is the only thing I could find. I think it's just a matter of they will have to do it, fit it in their schedule somehow. Yeah, that's the difficulty then. Any other questions? Okay, so inshallah we'll go back to the practical tasks immediately after death, and we'll have a look at how to wash the body. We're just going to project over here how Sheikh is washing the body so you can actually see any detail even if you're up there, inshallah.